everyone, this is James from TDB bringing you another Inbetweenisode. Today will be a drink off of the very expensive Manzhuan teas, the CYH Manzhuan and the BYH Manzhuan from 2003 for the CYH and 2004 for the BYH. So before I get too far in the thing, really trying to get to 10,000 subscribers this year. That's Denny and my goal, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe. So this comparison is interesting because we are kind of comparing two of the early productions with Taiwanese boutiques, BYH and CYH. So from a very, I think this is the first year that BYH really started to press their own cakes, and CYH, I don't think it's the first year, but it's still nonetheless very, very early. And so Manzhuan, before we get too far, is one of the 6 famous tea mountains, sort of in that greater Yiwu area, so similar to those sorts of profiles. Kind of develops sort of this brassy note as it does tend to age. And yeah, my history with both of these teas, BYH was introduced to me by Pedro, I think in something like 2018 or so. And so there were splits and group buys that happened for these cakes. So I picked up this. This Manzhuan has always been one of my personal favorites, one that I've never drank quite as much as I probably should have, and I've started to tear into my cake a little bit more recently. So the CYH, on the other hand, is a tea that I have a lot less history with. I think the first time I had this was sometime after TeasWeLike sourced it. There was a cake split, so I still have some tea from that split. And it's a tea that I've always found to be a little bit steep for the price, but the price a little steep for what it is. But nonetheless, it's a tea that I do always enjoy drinking quite a bit. So yeah, we are doing the $600 Taiwanese boutique Manzhuan face-off. So yeah, let's get into this teas. I am very much looking forward to drinking these teas. Sometimes when I do these comparisons, it's ones that I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be more for my own edification and education and comparing these rather than my enjoyment. But this one, I think I'm going to enjoy this one quite a bit. Okay, so let's get into the tea. All right, so let's get drinking. So I did blind these, so I'm actually not sure which is which. I did give them both a rinse already, and so these are steep number 1 here. The storage histories are, similar but different. BYH, I think, does some interesting sealed storage, but nonetheless, I've had this cake for 6 years, something like that. So, interesting. Yeah. More perfumey notes coming out of this one. I would say this one on the left's a little more standard in terms of its presentation. Definitely like some woody, kind of slightly humid Taiwan notes coming off that. So we'll start with the left. Cheers. Sweet raisins. Very friendly texture to this as well. Yeah, and so I don't know how effective this sort of blind tasting is because, like I said, I do know one of these teas a fair bit more, so odds are probably pretty good that I'll be able to sniff it out pretty quickly. Another thing that's interesting to try in these contexts is the things like the aftertaste for Yiwu, which is a pretty central part of those. It's a little harder to tell. Just like having them side by side like this, things that are really easy and to pick out are things like body, the obvious strength, and things like that. Whereas aftertaste, like chi, those things are a lot more challenging when you're having them just back to back and side by side like this. So lots of sweetness. I'd say it's still pretty light for the first steep. Cheers. This is more flavorful by a fair amount. And I'm pretty sure this is the BYH. It's fuller. It's more of a body. There's this interesting aromatic, perfumey thing that's going on here. Little bit of bitterness and resin to that as well. Very tasty. Yeah, I am. Yeah, they're both good. I would say this one on the left came out a little bit light, especially when you put it in contrast versus this one on the right. This next steep, I'm going to steep very similar to steep number 1, and maybe steep 3, possibly steep 4, I will lean on it. I want to do at least one where I lean on these a little bit. Okay. So keeping these steeps still real short. Using 5 grams for about 70-75 milliliters for both of these teas. And one thing that's interesting about BYH is he does seem to be a bit of a Manzhuan specialist. He's pressed a lot of tea from there, including from some of the more specific villages. Those would be some of his later productions. But this 2004 to 2006 run, as far as I could tell, he was basically doing Manzhuan and Yiwu cakes. At least those are the ones that have been kind of well-known and documented to the West. Definitely a few more kind of humid notes coming off of that one on the left, which is a little surprising to me. And a little more, not as low note focused on this one on the right. So we're going to reverse the order. So start with this guy on the right. Interestingly, the color for this has deepened quite a bit. So maybe it just needed a steep or so to open. Cheers. Gonna wait for that to cool down just a little bit more. Yeah. Let me know what your experiences are with these cakes. Of course, it is kind of a privilege to try such nice tea as this. But, if I were recommending cakes of this price range, I think the BYH cake would definitely be one that, personally, I would recommend. I really do like these Manzhuans and Yiwus. I think I gravitate slightly more towards their Manzhuan. So this would definitely be amongst the more favorite Taiwan boutique cakes that I own, if not the favorite, actually, if we're to think about it. I really like the Chenyuanhao, Tongqinghao from 2003 as well. Anyways, cheers. It has a really nice texture, this resinous. It does have those kind of more brassy Manzhuan notes to it as well. Smooth, goes down nice sweetness to it. It still does have kind of like a little bit of that gritty, resinous bitterness to it, which I don't consider a bad thing at all. Cheers. A lot less upfront flavors to this. It's interesting. The Chenyuanhao Manzhuan had never crossed me as particularly humid, but this showing of it is showing a little more of those notes. And it might just be in contrast to this. It does feel, it's a lot less active. It's definitely an easygoing tea. Not bad at all, but I do feel like I am strongly gravitating towards this tea on the right. Interesting. And I think I'm going to do just one more, and I'm going to push these guys pretty good on this last third steep. I'm going to go for 15 seconds or so. Yeah, so these Yiwu teas or these 6 famous mountain teas are not necessarily prone to bitterness. So, it means you can lean on them a little bit, which is something I've tended to do more recently. You might get a few less brews, but you can get some very dense, flavor-rich brews when you do have them. So, I read some of my old reports, and I get like 20 brews or 15 brews or something. I was like, I don't know that I get 15 or 20 brews out of most of anything right now. And I think I just had a package deliver, so I apologize for that interruption. I'll have to go get that in a second. Yeah. So let that go for a little bit here as well. Yeah, it's the teas that are sharper and definitely have more rough edges to them where you can't really push them as much. So if you pay really close attention to some of these comparison videos, I will ease back on my parameters a little bit when the teas call for it. So things like when I did the Chen Sheng Hao comparison, which are stronger, younger teas stored more dryly, I don't use quite as much and I don't push quite as hard as I would for these. Yeah, kind of generic, little herbal notes coming off that Manzhuan. Manzhuan, by the way, was acquired in a cake split from TeasWeLike years ago. Okay, yeah, let's start with this guy on the left, the Manzhuan. Well, they're both Manzhuans. It's got a nice body. There's some sweetness there, but there's quite a bit less activity going on in the mouth for this one. It has decent thickness. I'm trying to pay attention to the depth of the tea, which is always a little challenging to tell when you're doing them side by side. It does have some nice depth. Earthy, a little creamy. And let's go over to this guy. Yeah, a lot more activity. I can feel the depth and the thickness into the back of my mouth. Thicker, more satisfying brew in general, I would say. So I would definitely declare this tea the pretty clear winner. That's what it is. B. Yep, as expected, this is the BYH Manzhuan, the 2004 over here on my right. And we have the CYH Manzhuan over here on my left. I'm frankly a little surprised, but yeah, I'd say this is a pretty clear victory in terms of my preferences for this tea on the right. I thought the CYH would do a little bit better, actually, than it did. Yeah, not a huge surprise that it's the tea that I own and like that I tend to gravitate towards. But yeah, let me know if you have tried these teas, if you have a particular preference. Yeah, I think if I were to recommend one, I'd definitely recommend this BYH one. People like TeasWeLike, Jade Leaf, a bunch of people have sold BYH throughout the years, so definitely check them out. I do really like their Ewa as well, but I think their Manzhuan is definitely a personal favorite of mine. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time. Cheers.